Hi everyone, today we're gonna talk about the impact of the coronavirus on the real estate market. Okay, first I'm gonna detail why you should be optimistic in the medium term. Unlike the other crisis, the previous crisis that we had, whether it's the 9/11 or like the GFC, this crisis is different. We had this exogenous factor, which is the coronavirus, who creeped into the real estate market. So basically, to assess the future shape of the real estate market, we have to see how was the real estate market doing in the pre-corona era. Okay, so in the pre-corona era, from what I've seen on the Cushman and Wakefield website, I've seen that the real estate market was in a pretty solid shape. In terms of vacancy, it was below the historic averages, and in terms of property valuations, it was rising in a very sustainable manner. So all of this tells us that in the pre-corona era, we had a strong real estate market. And the real estate market, especially the commercial real estate market, had momentum. It had momentum, and we entered this crisis with a solid shape, with momentum. You know, like when there is a downturn, usually in the real estate sector, it could be like because of different reasons. It could be because of inventory overhang, it could be because of speculation and whatnot. So different reasons for a downturn in the real estate sector. But this time it's different. This time we have an exogenous factor coming and creeping in. So ultimately, I'm gonna say that we entered the crisis with momentum. We entered the crisis in a good shape. And additionally, in addition to all of what I previously mentioned, real estate investors are now much more conservative than they used to be in the past. Like during the 2008 crisis, we had, as you may know, excessive leverage. We had very positive net operating income assumptions, but this time they are much more conservative. They are much more reasonable in their underwriting assumptions, and all of this constitutes good foundation for a quick comeback. So that was my first reason for medium-term optimism. Alright, so now my second point about medium-term optimism. Let us all thank the global financial crisis. Because the global financial crisis gave the United States and gave Europe a framework. A framework to quickly execute, to quickly take action, to quickly stop the bleed. And we've seen in the past weeks that the US and Europe have taken massive amount of action.
$8.5 billion for vaccines and research and development. Phase 2 is the $105 billion in sick leave and unemployment assistance. That passed last night, 90-8 in the United States Senate, so that is moving on. Now they're working on what they're calling Phase 3. That is an up to $1.3 trillion bailout for a variety of industries, or economic support, if you want to use that term, for a variety of industries.
And yeah, like they've learned from the past that time is of the essence. And that's my second reason for medium-term optimism. The intervention of governments, of central banks, lowering interest rates, and that's all good for medium-term optimism in the real estate sector. Alright, so my third point for medium-term optimism is the fundamentals of the real estate market. Fundamentals that were set in the past few years. And by fundamentals, I mean the interest rates and the inflation. So we had interest rates and inflation going down, and this all have been pushing the cap rates down and down and down for the past few years, and consequently we had very high prices. So basically, yeah, we're gonna see some cap rate expansion in the very short term, but in the medium term I'm optimistic that prices are gonna recover much faster than rents. So in terms of valuation, in the medium term I'm optimistic that the values are gonna recover pretty fast. Alright, so my fourth point for medium-term optimism is China. Yeah, China is recovering, and this by itself is a reason for medium-term optimism. So yeah, I do understand that there will be some people who tell me that, oh no, China is not recovering, it's still imposing a 14-day quarantine policy on its citizens, there is no sudden release of demand from consumers. Okay, yeah, I do understand that. I do understand that no one is crying victory in China, but overall, the situation is getting much better. Alright, so we've discussed so far the reasons why I believe in medium-term optimism regarding the real estate sector. So, yeah, there is a recession that's coming, but I think the real estate sector is not gonna be hit as hard as the other sectors because of the different reasons that I mentioned. We entered this coronavirus thing with good and strong real estate market. It was in a good shape before the coronavirus era. The second thing is we have rapid government intervention, unlike the GFC where it took them a lot of time to intervene and come up with their plans. The third thing is that the real estate fundamentals, the low interest rates were set up in the last decade, with interest rates coming down and closer to zero, especially in Europe. Fourth thing is that China is recovering. This is by itself reason to be positive, optimistic. Yeah, I do understand that the comeback is slow, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. Alright, so thank you very much for watching. Take care and stay safe. Cheers!